Hello. Yes, I see them waving. Hi. Oh, it's so good to see excited young children. I hope we'll be able to do you all proud and hand over some very good legacies to all of you. So for our live audience, we will kick off in the next 5 minutes. Just give us a few minutes and then we'll start off. Dr. Baba, is that okay? So we'll start at 11:10 on the dot. That's in 5 minutes. Is that okay with you, Dr. Baba? Okay.
I should remove it.
What do you want to remove? What do you want to remove?
Then if you want to remove the charger with the fan, you temper with the.
Is this charger you want to remove?
Put the charger in the.
Alex.
Hello. 11:09 now. We start at 11:10 on the dot. Dr. David, is that okay with you?
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm good with it.
Okay. Welcome to the new panelists that just joined us now. So we start now. Greetings to the distinguished guests. Welcome to all our guests on all the various media platforms, social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and all the other platforms that we're on right now. Distinguished panelists, welcome to the second in the series of this town hall meeting on alternative education, a panacea for tackling the out-of-school children crisis in Nigeria. Organized by the Life Builders Initiative, who have been doing some great work with out-of-school children in Nigeria. And the main rationale for these series of discussions is to help determine and immediate as well as long-term benefits for the alternative school program and to provide workable strategies and models and theories upon which Nigeria can build its own workable model for alternative education. The outcome of these discussions are intended and aim to support the work of the high-powered committee on alternate education inaugurated by the president in January 2021. Nigeria reportedly is currently leading the world in the number of out-of-school children, and all hands must be on deck to address this crisis. My name is Ifoma Madweke Garba. I work with the United Nations World Food Program, and I'll be co-hosting today's proceedings with Dr. Nasir Baba of FHI 360. He'll have an opportunity, of course, to introduce himself properly. The first session of this series was held on the 15th of April, 2021, and Dr. Baba will remind us of the key highlights from this discussion shortly. This town hall promises to be engaging, enlightening, and overall informative, and also we hope to come up with concrete ideas on how to move this agenda forward for alternative education program in Nigeria. I will now go on to just do a quick review of what the agenda is. If the studio can please project that on the screen, that would be nice. If not, I can just do a quick rundown of it as well. We're currently doing the confirmation and setup of the meeting, which is what I'm doing right now. Right after this, we shall have the introductory remarks and the key highlights from Dr. Nasir Baba, who is from the Department of Curriculum Studies and Education Technology, Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto, and also with the FHI 360. Like I said, my name is Ifoma Madweke Garba already. Right after this, we will have remarks by the convener, Dr. Samuel David, and then we'll have the keynote addresses from two notable speakers, His Royal Highness Dr. Adamu Baba Yunusa, the honor of Abaji and chairman of the FCT Traditional Council and a friend of LBI, Honorable Prof. Julius Ihevobare, chairman Basic Education Committee, Federal House of Assembly. He's also a friend of LBI and was here as well for the first series of this town hall meeting. Right after that, we should go into a studio presentation, a video clip of the people that we're talking about here today and where our focus should be on to get live information from them as well. We'll now listen to a success story from one of our LBI friends and head of Wando Foundation, Mrs. Digoke. Then we'll go through another studio presentation, which is supposed to help to enlighten us as well on the issues that we're discussing today. The aim of this is to ensure that we're carrying along the people that we're talking about and we're not talking at them, but having conversations with them as well. If you look clearly for the studio presentation before the agenda came on board, you see the lovely faces of the lovely princesses, and young kings and queens in the making in the background. Once we're done, I would like all of them to just wave again. Immediately after this, we will go into the meat of this event today, which is a panel discussion. We will have 5 key panelists. Dr. Nasir Baba will introduce each of the panelists. Right after that, we'll have comments and questions, a session which will be facilitated by myself and Dr. Baba as well. Immediately after this, we will have Professor Julius Ihevobare, the chairman of the Education Committee, Basic Education Committee, and Dr. Omar Binda, who is part of the Alternate Education Program Working Group, and they will facilitate the session after this one. And then we'll have the closing remarks by the convener, Dr. Samuel David. This is a quick rundown of what we need to do today. And without further ado, I would ask that the studio please zoom into where Dr. Samuel is, and we say a big hello to the children who are here with us today. Hello, children. Can you? I hope all of you can see them waving. They're waving. They've been waving for us patiently, and they're very enthusiastic. Dr. David, over to you now for your opening remarks.
How are you? Good morning, everybody. It's happy to be here today. My name is Dr. Samuel Olatunji David, and I welcome us all to Life Builders, the School Without Work. Children, say hello again to everybody. Hello. Now,
hello.
For me, it's important that we create a future we want our children and our grandchildren to voice in time. We want to create a future that our children and our grandchildren will like. To say that our elders have not done very well is an understatement. Otherwise, how did we get here? A nation with 30% of our school-age children out of school certainly cannot be said to have been governed well. A nation with adult literacy level below 40% cannot be said to have had a forward-looking men and women in the place of leadership. I was young when Professor Wole Soyinka said his generation has failed Nigerians. The future of 1970, 1980, 1990, and 2000 has given rise to the crime, the violence of the 2010s. Now I am old, and the younger ones are looking in bewilderment. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but I think somebody is talking.
Computer Zoom.
Dr. Samuel, just hold on. The person talking to mute. I can't see who it is. Can you please all mute? Thank you.
Responsibility is laid on us, not only to palliate the imbalance and poverty that fuel this crisis and criminality, but to think through a system that will promote inclusiveness, bring about robust participation of the larger youth population of the country in the economy, the commerce, and politics of Nigeria, and promote patriotism. In my mind, the marching instruction of Mr. President at the inauguration of the National Steering Committee on Alternative Education has the potential of accomplishing this. However, one is tempted to take these words with caution, as politicians are always full of high-sounding words, giving temporary hope, but like dew with little or no follow-up benefit. That the steering committee has also the wisdom to handle this, it is by themselves may be questionable. Every Nigerian of good conscience must speak up. The private sector, the public sector, our royal fathers, the custodians of culture and tradition, the clergy, the learned, as the lawyers call themselves, and the unlearned Nigerians, as they call others, must lend our voices to the kind of education, indoctrination, skill, and knowledge to be transferred, and the techniques and methods we want to adopt to do this now. Mr. President said we must rehabilitate and refocus the 13 million children roaming about the street. We must give them hope. We must infuse in them patriotism before the terrorists and bandits recruit them. This is a clarion call. It is urgent, for it portrays the survival or otherwise of our posterity. A number of disjointed efforts have been attempted by well-meaning patriotic Nigerians and friends of Nigeria in the time past. Though these efforts were noble and well-intentioned, they have not yielded the desired outcome because they are not coordinated, they are not focused, they are not intentional. Commendable efforts indeed by the private sector, awesome work by the NGOs, impressive conversations on the floor of the House of Assembly, insightful contributions in the academics, policies upon policies by the executive, we still ended up with an increasing number of out-of-school children. We are here again to challenge the out-of-school children crisis. This time around, We have gathered the private sector. We have gathered the academia, represented by Professor Mwazu, a distinguished scholar, and the executive, represented by Dr. Binder, a colossus. May I introduce him as an NGMA, the chairman technical working group of the alternate school program, and lawmakers led by erudite professor, a role model by excellence, Professor Julius Yovare, with the children who are the victims of the non-inclusiveness in the education system, guided by the wisdom of our ancestors, represented by the presence of our royal father, His Royal Highness, the honor of Abaji, and the chairman of FCT International Council, Honorable Dr. Kakale, my newly found teacher, distinguished personalities, ladies and gentlemen in the studio, and our viewers. Please let us speak up. Let us interrogate the challenges that we have. Let us give these children a hope that our fathers gave us. Let us work together to make Nigeria a better place. The education sector, one that will be inclusive, one that will capture their interests and will make them a better Nigerian that we desire to be. Children, do you like to be better Nigerians?
Yes!
Thank you, everybody. I hope that this conversation will make them proud that today they see our faces and today we are able to give them hope that will be sustainable. Thank you very much for this meeting. You are all welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. David. Just quick highlights of some of the things that you pointed out and how we need to focus on giving our young children hope. We owe it to ourselves to ensure that we give our children a better future. We owe it to ourselves to ensure that we have a conversation today that is very fruitful and can move this agenda forward. And we owe it to ourselves as we have brought a very strong gathering of people from different stakeholders who have very strong roles and strong opinions within this system. We thank you very much for your opening remarks, and we hope that at the end of our session today, our children who are sitting down right beside you and those that will be joining us from the other locations will be proud of what their parents are doing today and what their teachers are doing today. And we pray that we end up being the hope that the children need to be able to move forward and have a sustainable life in Nigeria. With this now, we move on to the first keynote address from His Royal Highness, Dr. Adamu Baba Yunusa, the honor of Abaji, chairman of the chairman of the FCT Council of Traditional Rulers. Good morning, sir. I see you, sir. The floor is yours.
How are you? Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I'm sitting in for His Royal Majesty, the honor of Abaji, who is not available absent now, is here to attend to another program at National Assembly, Abuja. My name is Honorable Sule Salu Kakamba, the Chief of Staff to the Palace. I would like to first of all appreciate all the members that have been with us all these days and those that are with us today, and pray to God to guide and protect them as going to support this program. I will remember on the second virtual council meeting we're having today, and do pray, and I'm very proud for all the children and other members that are out here present today, and pray as we embark on this program, we'll see to the end successfully. First of all, I want to appreciate Dr. Sanwo Olatunji David, the Chief Executive and the founder of Live Builder Initiative for Education and Societal Integration, followed by Professor Julius O. Ihobere, honorable member representing the good people of Owan Federal Constituency, Edo State, and Chairman's Committee on Education. Also, I would also like to appreciate Professor Honorable Dr. Shehu Balara Bekakale, honorable member representing the good people of Dengue and Tureta Federal Constituency, Sokoto State, and former Federal Commissioner of Health, Sokoto State, former Head Commissioner, Sokoto State. Let me also appreciate the president or recognize the president of Professor T.D. Anselm Odrika Kalu, the great human rights and social justice activist, and further sexual and public interest and development law, Fidel. Also present is Mrs. Ifoma Madueke Garba, Program Policy Officer, Agenda, and Gender Result Network Coordinator, United Nations World Food Program. I want to appreciate Professor Nasiru Baba, Department of Curriculum Study and Educational Technology, Usman Dopondo University, Sokoto State, and Professor Mazu Tukul Mazu, Dean Faculty of Art and Social Sciences, Education, National State University, Kefi. Also present is Professor D. Vandil, the Chair Material Working Group of Presidential Steering Committee, an alternate school program and former SSG, Adamawa State, and also the former DG of NOTAP. Also want to appreciate the president or recognize the president of Mrs. Adekala Adegoke, head of Kando Foundation. Distinguished all over the world. I also express my sincere gratitude to you all who are here today for ensuring that this program sees the light of the day. Without you, without your support, without your vote program not see the light of the day. I want to appreciate you for taking your time, energy, and resources to ensure that this program sees the light of the day. I thank you very much for all your contribution and pray to God to guide and protect you as you support this program from beginning to the end. You all recall that the main purpose of our gathering today is to discuss on the issue of school children in Nigeria who have become a canker worm in our community, in our refugee society, and the country in general. You will remember, we will remember that in the presidential briefing, we are made to aware that about 30 million children are roaming about the street doing nothing. If nothing is not done very quickly, they end up in the hand of the kidnappers and bandits, will become another problem for this country. So I want to pray to all of us. Let's all join. Let's under all hands be on decks to ensure that something fast and quick is actually taken on these our children, so that at the end of the day they will be happily employed in our labor work, so that at the end of the day they all be responsible people in our society. I want to see the opportunity to express my unreserved gratitude to Mr. President, President Muhammad Buhari, who are taking upon himself to ensure that these children are not left in society, roaming society. All hands must do priority measures have to be taken. As you can see, most of the people are experiencing this country today. The issue of kidnapping, banditry, and so on, Boko Haram, and so on and so on, is caused by our negligence. We are late in taking decisions, though it's better to be late than never. It's high time now, we now sit tight to ensure that what we have overlooked before it's not that has become a problem today. It's the problem also to face that squarely now. I could remember there was a time I was in Kaduna. Instead of going through the road, we are all going through the train. Even the people in the uniform, majors and brigadiers and all of that, also through the train because the people neglected. I think they are not important. The people now deny us the feeling of going through the road. Now we're not going through the train. So it's something very quick and fast. Not on this issue. I wonder what the issue had for us in this country. The Federal Study Committee commissioned by the Mr. President has equally done absolutely well in enhancing a working group to start the surgical operation on out-of-school children, which is quite commendable. I strongly believe in the set of selection involved in this entire process will deliver a very good result. I pray for them to sit tight to ensure that the program outlined for them is followed to the latter. Live Builder Initiative has indeed remodeled and given us the outright and best platform so far, not only for us, but for Nigerians to see that we are more than able to solve and provide solutions for ourselves by ensuring that Nigeria problem can be solved by Nigerians any day, anytime, and anywhere. On this note, I want to also appeal not only to the federal government alone, all the people, all the people, all the way to doing this in society. This program, the issue of out-of-school children is not left for government alone. There are people in the society that are well to do. There are people in the private sector that have means to embark on this program. It's all join hand with the government to see that this menace is arrested once and all hands will be on desk to arrest the situation. So I want to thank you very much for taking your time to be here today and pray to God to guide and protect us, give us the strength, wills, foresight to embark on this program squarely, so that at the end of the day, success will be on our part. I thank you very much for taking your time to be with us today and pray to God that will be going on in our subsequent program. You see all your time to be here with us again. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for reiterating the commitment and political will of the FCT Traditional Council to this initiative and to ensuring that we have your full support. Also, thank you for reiterating the fact that we have to tackle the situation, or we might end up with even a much bigger, worse crime rate than we already have as out-of-school children.
Also, Madam, his Magic is also that his door is 24/7 open for you. Anytime you have any program, any problem, it's at your service at all time.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for that. Dr. Samuel, I'm sure you can hear this. We have the FCT Traditional Rulers Council support 100%. Anytime we have any issues or anything we need to deal with, they're at our disposal. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you very much for your address. With this now, I will go over to Professor Julius, the Chairman, House Committee on Basic Education, if he's here now for his own remarks as well. Professor Julius, are you online?
Professor Julius will be joining us in a short while.
Okay, so maybe we will leave his own remarks until after we have the presentation of the video clip on Almajiri children in the Northwest. Over to the LBI studio. Children, are you still with us? Yes. Okay. LBI studio, over to you. And please, can you admit Dr. Nasir Baba?
I think I'm in now.
Okay, thank you very much.
These street children, many locally, as already
Is anybody else seeing this video?
Yes. Check it.
Practice. This is not and
video now.
I'm sharing it.
We don't see the video.
All right.
Hello, LBI studio. Can you mute until you're ready to show? Dr. David?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I think we move to listening to Ms. Adegoke, and then we sort out the technical issues with the two videos, so we take them back to back.
I agree with you.
Okay, so if we can move to the second story.
Can they help us mute?
Yes, if you can also mute your mic.
Please.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I recognize the Royal Highness who is with us. And also a very big thank you to Dr. David, who is the host of this fantastic discussion that we're having today. My name is Uju. On behalf of the head of Owando Foundation, I will be speaking to us briefly on the Owando Foundation model and our intervention supporting out-of-school children in Nigeria. I don't know if they have my, if they can put up my presentation. I know the time is limited, or can I share it from here?
You can try. See if that works.
Yeah, I'm doing that. Yes, please. Can you see my screen?
Hello.
Hello. Is
Okay,
anyone
backstage?
No, we can see your screen right now.
Okay. Okay.
LBI Studio, can you help to project her presentation, please? From the Owando Foundation. This is one of the.
Can you forward your presentation?
I already did since I did since morning. Okay, I'll do that.
Can you just forward it again? Thank you.
Yes, I'm doing that right away.
Thanks. One of the joys of technology.
Real time.
I see Professor Julius has joined us now, the House Committee Chair on Basic Education. Welcome, sir. We will get to you as soon as we're done with Owando Foundation. Thank you.
Okay, so while they're putting it up, maybe I could actually start because I know we're really short on time.
No
and I'm supposed to do a 5 minutes presentation. So basically, in the next few minutes, I'll be talking to us about Owando Foundation, our intervention on out-of-school children, what has worked, some of the lessons that we have learned, and what we think will be taken forward from that initiative. Like I said before, my name is Uju Ajono. I am the Education Program Officer for Owando Foundation. Just briefly, I don't want to belabor all the discussions that we have had about the state of education in Nigeria, the issue of out-of-school children. The truth is that the challenge of out-of-school children in Nigeria is very dire, that sometimes you don't even want to think about it. Nigeria, with all our resources, we have over 10 million children out of school, the highest in the world. And, going beyond talking about out of school children, we're also talking about children who are in school. What are they learning? What is the quality of our education system? Now, Owando Foundation is an independent charity that is set up by the Owando PLC, basically to support basic education in Nigeria. The PLC is very passionate about education and that basic education is the foundation of education. And we know that this, there's a saying that says education is the bedrock of every society, is the bedrock for an individual, is the bedrock for a community, and is the bedrock for the society. Education is critical. As a country, we're seeing the effect of illiteracy and ignorance. Look at what is going on with our security system. And the level of insecurity in the country is on the increase. So as a foundation, our core is focused on supporting both access to education as well as improving the quality of education within the government, school system. And we do that through a program we call the Adopt a School Initiative, AASI. Now, let me check. I don't know if the presentation is up yet. I'm just running through. Okay, we do that through the Adopt a School Initiative. The Adopt a School Initiative is the foundation's signature program that has that believes in a holistic approach to addressing the issue of education And when we say holistic, because we understand that there are various components. There's so many factors that come to interplay when we're talking about increasing access or improving quality in education. And that is what this signature project has done, is look at the critical element. What are those factors that are critical to ensuring there's increased access and there's improved quality of education in the schools where we intervene, which is also, scalable, something that other people could learn, and government can replicate what we have done. And the key components of our program is, one, infrastructure. We recognize, the place of conducive environment. When we're talking about safe space education, we're talking about addressing the issue of overcrowdedness, just ensuring that there's a conducive environment for children to learn. We understand the place of teacher capacity in terms of their delivery, the pedagogy, and also, subject knowledge. And we're strengthening the capacity of teachers to ensure that, delivery of the curriculum is done in a way that children are engaged and there's actual learning taking place. Okay, we also, we're very, because we know that technology is critical in 21st century. I'm hearing a lot of noise in the background. The other component of our program is what we call this. We support participation of the community in education, which is very critical, and we build capacity of education institutions in the area of MS, data management, and evidence-based planning. We also provide scholarships to indigent children, because we understand that poverty is very key. It's one of the contributing factors to the out-of-school issue that we're discussing. So the foundation provides scholarship grants to indigent children to support them through their secondary school education. Between the 2016 and 2018, the foundation partnered with Educate a Child Qatar to pilot what we call this model that I'm talking about, in terms of making specific efforts to mobilize and enroll out of school children and support them to be integrated into the school system. Now, this model, in developing the strategy for out of school, we did not just, just pluck it out of the air. We developed it based on lessons from, best practices, as well as some of the things we have learned, working directly with children across our 88 schools in 23 states in Nigeria. So some of the key components, which is the meat of what I want to talk about, that the approach looked at critical things like multiple stakeholders. In dealing with the issue of out-of-school children, thank you for all the other people that made the presentation, His Royal Highness. We have all highlighted the place of the different actors. So you're looking at the private sector, we're looking at government, we're looking at the communities themselves, the parents. Everyone has a role, if we must make a headway in this issue. So our strategy looked at that, and we also understood that community engagement and ensuring that the communities own the project, so they are driving the sensitization, they understand, and they understand the possibilities of education and the importance of education to them as individuals and to the community. The other key aspect is capacity strengthening. It is critical, because if we must implement or support out of school children, we need to build capacity across all levels, both at the government, teacher, school level, and head teacher levels. There just has to be capacity strengthening across these levels to be able to, for us to see the kind of results that we're looking into. And then one of the key elements for this program is what we call the Working Center. I will talk about it a bit more briefly. And then provision of ancillary support, looking at things like school materials, teaching and learning materials, school bags, school uniform, which are, in some of these communities, these are real issues. A lot of children are not attending school because they cannot provide antecedent cost to education. So in dealing with out-of-school children, we understood that we had to do something about this component as well. And then the final one is ensuring that, you know, there's monitoring through the entire enrollment system, the profiling of out-of-school children, and then assessment and the entire transition from our working center back to the formal school system. So basically, Owado Foundation, in putting all of this together, like I said, we focused on driving community mobilization, creating a lot of awareness, because we understand that out-of-school children, social and religious ideologies fuel out-of-school children. A lot of social misconceptions about schooling, about you know, why girls should go to school, for instance, and all of this. So we ensure that there's a lot of sensitization campaign within the community, and this is driven by the community themselves, by the religious leaders, by the traditional leaders. So we got everyone involved, and they bought and owned the program, and they were mobilizing out-of-school children within their community in a way that it suits each community. So it was not a one-size-fits-all program. It was communities coming up with their own strategies as it works for them. And then what we did was, because we understood that the out-of-school children, there were a number of out-of-school children who have never been to school, who lacked basic literacy and numeracy skills. And it was difficult to integrate them back to school just, you know, by just enrolling them. So what we did was to set up what we call the working center. Now, our working center was a non-formal center, meaning that the children it was flexible. Children could come to the center without uniforms and all of those. So what the foundation did was to set up our working centers within the school system, because we thought that if the children come around the school environment, it's going to incite their excitement. You know, they're seeing other children in school, and they will be interested to transit into the formal school. And then again, we also, I mean, having the out-of-school children in school also helped with, we leveraged, you know, the school classes, we leveraged the teachers, we work with the government to assign teachers to some of these working centers. And so you see that the working center, the children were there between 10 to 12 weeks, depending. And basically what we did in the working center was have an accelerated course on literacy, basic literacy and numeracy, supporting the children to understand basic literacy so that they're able to be assigned to classes, appropriate classes after the working center tenure is over, as well as help them integrate, let the transition process be smooth, you know, smoothing that entire process. And you know, what we found out was that the working center, the children were excited, because it wasn't just that it was in the school, it was that their own pedagogy was a bit different. It was very engaging, because there was a capacity strengthening system for the teachers to engage the children from where they are, you know, using plays, using a lot of teaching and learning materials to make education fun. And children were very interested. And this really helped, because by the time I'm talking about some of the early outcomes, we saw that Owado Foundation, through this project, we were able to enroll at least over 60,000 pupils who were out of school back to school within 3 years. And we saw, you know, the community members, they were empowered, they were driving the process. Their capacity was strengthened, that even beyond the project, there was a lot of sustainability, you know, from that, because beyond the project, we saw in some of our communities, SBMCs and community members were coming together, garnering their efforts to ensure that children who were mobilized, not just that they were mobilized, but that they stay in school beyond the project. And of course, the teachers' capacity and competency level was improved, because there was a lot of training to support out-of-school children, which is a transferable knowledge beyond the project that they could, you know, take into the classroom. At the end of this project, we saw, like I said, over 60,000 pupils out of school. We had 77% retention rate. And out of 16,000 pupils who were enrolled in the working centers, We had 80% of them transit to formal school. Now, this thing, we found out that some of the key things that worked. One is government. In fact, research has proven that alternate education system that finds a way to integrate, into existing structures and existing school system have been found to be more sustainable. So what we did, in this model is that we worked hand in hand with the government. We leveraged the classrooms, the existing schools, we leveraged the teachers, and also capacity of government institutions were built to monitor beyond the delivery of the project. Also, some of the existing structures within the government that were leveraged were the school feeding program that was ongoing at the time. We had government counterpart support. So whatever we did in the school, we got the government to commit to support whatever we're doing in the school, whether in kind, or by building another block of classroom, and that whole partnership brought the kind of success, that we saw in that program. One of the other things, lessons that we learned from this is community.
Sorry, can I interrupt you for a minute? You have 30 seconds to round up. Just 30 seconds, please round up.
I'm actually done. So I'm just trying to highlight some of the key elements to this project, which, I've said, whatever we're doing, government partnership, thank God, with the new commitment from the federal government, the alternate system is coming from up down. So we believe that with this commitment, whatever structure or that we set up for the alternate system, if we have the political will, it's going to be successful. The final one is that, like I said, community engagement is critical. Sensitization of parents is very critical if we must achieve, what we want to see with the out of school issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jude. That was very detailed, and thanks a lot for sharing that. I'm sure you'll be able to share your presentation with everybody much later. You're also going to be a member of the panel discussion, so you have more time to respond to questions. Thank you so much for that. Community engagement is very critical. Ownership, extremely important, and also the top-down approach, very critical as well. Prof, I see you're online now. There's a slight adjustment to the agenda. We were supposed to hear the highlights from the last town hall meeting before we went into all the presentations. But since that is going to be the basis for the conversation around the panel discussion, Dr. Baba will take that just before the panel discussion so that everybody remembers and we still have it fresh in our memories when we're having the conversation and the panel discussion. So with that being said, we'll now go to Prof. Julius, the chairperson on basic education. The chairperson House Committee on Basic Education. Please go on, sir. Good to see you again, sir.
Thank you, Thomas. Good to see you too.
Good to see you again.
I'm sorry I came on late because I was engaged somewhere else. I think what I will be doing is essentially trying to make a case for deepening the new attention through the alternate school system that we're putting to address out-of-school children. Essentially, I also believe that one of the things we need to avoid as we go along is to patronize the out-of-school children to the point where we get them into school for some kind of education that they cannot use. So the life skills they take out of the school system is very critical. And we all know that around the world today, and I'm happy that my colleague, Honorable Kakali, is on, is to talk about skillificates rather than certificates. So that even while at the level of the alternate school system program, we are talking about 4 essential subjects of arithmetic, literacy, basic technology, social studies, and even religious studies. The issue of skills is critical. Those that have gone to school and not have no jobs, many cannot get to higher institutions. So the challenge remains, how do we technically get the school in, keep them in there, and then take them out into the world. Two issues I want to emphasize, and I'm happy that Uju touched on it briefly. One is the issue of political will. Are we really serious about out-of-school children? And how serious are we about the alternate school program? This is not the first time. We've done it before. At the moment, we have almost 15 different engagement programs, different intervention programs, different funding programs, almost half of it from the World Bank, we're not seeing concrete results. Now, what that tells me is that the issue is not just throwing money into out of school, like we want to do in Nigeria. Oh, there's a problem here, 5 billion, 10 billion, 20 billion. But then where's the result? It goes into bureaucracy, it goes into management, it goes to consultants, it goes into corruption, and then there is nothing left for the children we're trying to deal with. I think one of the issues we must begin to look at right at the beginning here is, how do we better manage resources, limited as they are? I agree there's need for more money in the educational sector. There's need for more money in the alternate school program, but how are we going to manage it to ensure that most of the money goes to the alternate school program for the children, so that we get out of school children in school? But I think the political will to get this done is still not there. Let's not deceive ourselves. If we want to make an impact, the political will has to be built and generated or forced on those that are going to be managing this to recognize that there are consequences for some kind of mismanagement. You know, in Nigeria, somebody embezzled 10 billion, he has been dismissed. And that is the end of it. He goes to enjoy his loot. There has to be a follow-up. When the person knows that will pursue you to your grave, and even pursue those that benefited, just like we're seeing money being returned from relatives of Ibori, people will begin to think a bit differently. So the political will, at the federal level, yes, there is evidence of commitment, I would say. At least I'm a member of the alternate school program, and I can see from the array of people gathered at those meetings and the kind of the willingness, for the first time I'm seeing this, to bring in all stakeholders, including civil society, to ensure that things move in the right direction. I would say, yes, we're on the right track, but we have not done anything yet to beat our chests over. But having said that, at the state and local government levels, these are the people who are perpetrating out-of-school children. Because all out-of-school children live in states and local governments. All out-of-school children in Nigeria live in states and local governments. And these states budget money annually for education. In addition, each of these states get money, some running into billions from UBEC every year, ostensibly to improve the quality of education. At the level of even improving basic education, 98% of the states have failed woefully. They've not done what they're supposed to do. Monies that are collected are really not used in such a way that we can see it. So even taking the attention from a failing basic education system to addressing alternate school program will be a major challenge. And we must discuss, how do we get this to happen? I believe at the level of the House of Representatives, my committee has to sit up and work with UBEC so that the matching grants we give to states every year, we tie it to concrete results, and an allocation method that a substantial part of that goes into alternate education system, out-of-school children, and to improving infrastructure in basic education. In most of the states where you have nomadic education system, I'm now going to talk about the National Assembly itself. How many members in their constituency projects talk about even making the learning environment conducive and attractive so that out-of-school children will say, it is better to be in this place than to be on the streets or to be in the motor park or to be roaming around doing nothing. So again, we need to generate discourse there, and I think civil society can play a major role here, because I know that many of my colleagues in the House respect the work of civil society, and many do not want to be in the bad books of civil society. I mean, they're not going to say we're drawing the line, it's fine to finish, we're declaring you wanted or something like that. So I believe that engagement from National Assembly, both in terms of budgetary support, both in terms of oversight, both in terms of legislative advocacy, and both in terms of following up the Naira to the dot. These are critical to build a body of pressure that will make a difference in the alternate school program to make sure it succeeds and to make sure that we get the results we are looking for. I think that at the level of civil society, I want to thank Life Builders for what they are doing, but there are just very few of them that are doing the kind of work we are expecting in this problem. Everyone recognizes the challenge. You don't address it, there will be the same people who will join the bandits, who will join the armed robbers, who will join the kidnappers, who will join the Boko Haram. So everybody is involved. Today, insecurity in Nigeria affects everyone. I can't go to my constituency because I know what will happen if I go there. It's happening every day. They're now kidnapping even school children, farmers, and collecting 250,000 as ransom. So it has come down to the grassroots. It's everywhere. We see what's going on in the Southeast. It is not members of the National Assembly or the Buhari's cabinets or the big men in their basic corporations that are doing this. These are mostly graduates who are unemployed and many unemployable. They are mostly frustrated young people who have no opportunities to improve themselves. And of course, those who have been neglected, the totally underserved communities and constituencies are coming together to challenge the system in the way they think is right, but which really affects the progress of society. So I think the National Assembly has to sit up. Those of us in there need to wake up and work with our colleagues, but those who are outside need to put some pressure on us to recognize that the dangers that out-of-school children pose to Nigeria cannot be taken for granted. I know we don't have a lot of time, but let me also quickly say that, let me quickly round up by saying that if our civil society, I'm advocating that more should be involved, but not as individual NGOs going in and out and making conflicting statements or competing. No, I think what we should see will be building some kind of synergy and cooperation that will enable civil society to drive the agenda, drive the oversight, drive the monitoring, drive the energy that is required to do the right thing. And we must be creative and innovative in recognizing that it is not only when we bring the children into a classroom that we can teach them. This is one discourse that is not going on in Nigeria. My committee is thinking of doing something in June about taking school to the children. All over the world, there are new ways. This is all over the world. We don't have enough time for me to go through all of this, but there are 1,001 strategies and methods that have come on board where you take the school to the children and do not disrupt their normal lives and do not scare the parents away from thinking that they will lose whatever support they are getting, but enable the children to learn something, build up skills that will be useful to them in the future. I think we're on the right track in Nigeria. We can do very well, but there is absolutely nothing yet to brag about. We have not put in those institutional mechanisms that will ensure that the money goes to the children, not to bureaucrats, politicians, and businessmen in the name of contracts and consultancy. Let me round up there for now. I want to thank Life Builders for the consistency in support for addressing the out-of-school children and also for their interest in the alternate education system. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you so much. Thank you. Very enlightening as always. Yes, you are completely right. We have nothing to brag about right now. You have spoken about political will that we need at particularly the state and local government level. You said something that's very interesting here on skills instead of the certificates. You also talked about civil society organizing themselves as big coalitions to be able to hold the National Assembly and people from the other sections of the government accountable as well. You talked about how we're going to be able to translate what we're learning in schools and make them more applicable in people's lives and make people even more employable. As right now we have students who have come out and children who've come out of school and are not even employable at all. So we still have a lot of work to do and all hands need to be on deck, as has been said by all the other speakers. Thank you so much, Prof, for continuing to enlighten us in this area and also for drawing attention to the work that you at the National Assembly as well should be doing and continue to doing. And then also, it's a good thing to know that you want us to hold you accountable. Life Builders will continue to do that in collaboration with all the other civil society organizations that they're working with right now. We are supposed to be going now to the Life Builders studio. Just wanted to confirm that we're ready. If we are not ready with the studio presentations, we're supposed to have 2 video clips. If those are not ready, we will go straight to. Are we ready with the? Hey, hello, children. Are you back? Can you hear me? Okay, so for all the panelists who came in a bit late, we have the children that are sitting with Dr. Samuel live right now, and they're listening to this conversation as well. So they will definitely hold us accountable at some point. Dr. Samuel, are we ready? Dr. David? We will take the 2 of them back to back. The clip on the Almajiri children in the Northwest and also a working model, the LBI model. We are ready when you are.
Okay, we'll join in a moment.
If it is still not ready, we can go straight to Dr. Baba, and he does the highlights, the key highlights from the first edition of the town hall meeting. Dr. David, is that okay with you?
Yes, it is okay with me. That's also okay. But let's see what the studio can come up with in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so Dr. Baba, you want to do this now? Okay, so the video is coming on.
Life Builders Initiative for education and society integration. In designing a model to attract and keep children back in school, one factor must be held sacrosanct, and that is the out-of-school children in all places are suffering from one form of social challenge or the other. According to Dr. Sonwo Olatoji David, the out-of-school children phenomenon is synonymous to poverty and crisis. A huge percentage of children out of school are children of the poor, the vulnerable, and the victims of crisis and social unrest. It is therefore impossible to discuss a solution to out of school without delving into humanitarian and social service intervention. The LBI model is therefore designed to provide a wide net of psychosocial support to give the out-of-school child a balanced perspective, one that treats the child as a child, takes away the burden of providing food, security, and stigma. That way, the child can approach learning and schooling as an excited and inquisitive learner. We shall be looking at some of this support as provided by the LBI model. We call them our thematic areas. They include school feeding, health, skills acquisition, sport, community partnership, societal integration, school scholarship for basic 7 to 9, and quality and well-motivated teachers. School feeding. Several surveys conducted to test reasons why children are out of school. Children hungry at school represented over 90% of the cause of out of school. Hence, we introduced school feeding as far back as 2013, and for 7 years, we have maintained one balanced meal a day for every learner on our program, and it works. Health of a learner. 70% of school absenteeism is attributed to ill health, and in more cases, they are minor elements which can be handled by at the primary health care center. Therefore, LBI maintains a functional school clinic with volunteer doctors and medical personnel. For over 7 years, LBI has been providing primary medical services to students and the women in the community through the Francisca Olutu Health Center that do not only endear the community to the school, it also ensures relatively short student downtime as elements are captured and treated before it becomes aggravated. Skills acquisition. 60% of out-of-school children in our community are teenagers. Many are orphans. Many have very poor parents with little or no capacity to fund their education beyond basic 9. LBI takes this responsibility of funding to basic 9, but also prepares the student for life after basic 9. Skill acquisition also answers one of the challenges of being in school, which is the opportunity cost of being in school. After a short stay at school without work, many of the students can engage in helping their parents with the skills acquired while at school. So the parents see a partnership with the school in improving the skills required by their child to add value to their trade, while others who have to can learn a living through the skills in no short time. The farming skills acquired also augment what we all eat at school. Sports. Children learn through sports. Sports bring comradeship. 40% of the out-of-school children interviewed left school because of truancy. We rechannel this energy into sports so the children know when they are in school, they can play sports and after learning and after a decent meal. Children must be children and they must be allowed to play. It is beneficial for their psychomotor development. A child may drop out of school, but never out of the community. Through sport, we create a community where teammates look out for each other.
Community partnership. African communities look out for each other. We leverage on the community to drive our activities. We interrogate the needs in the community to determine the skill to be taught at the skill center. That way, to set up a profitable venture after training becomes easier. We leverage on the community structure to enforce discipline. We work with the community to drive participation by the parent in the education of their children, as the parent must be involved in the upbringing of the child. The community women cook the food we eat because they know what their children love eating. Societal integration. Out-of-school children are usually ostracized by the society and pushed to run company and may become a societal misfit if not reintegrated into the mainstream social flow. We organize cultural events to remind the IDP of their origin. We celebrate seasons because every child deserves to be celebrated. We dance, sing, and celebrate because children believe only the privileged dance and rejoice. We break the wall that separates us from them. School scholarship. LBI stays with the children till they complete the compulsory basic 9. That means we provide scholarship through our partners for every child on our program up to basic 9. A team of motivated teachers. Our teachers are well motivated, not only by money, but by providing continuous in-service training, thereby exposing them to new realities. Our teachers are not left behind. They feel part of the global community, and any of them still in teaching are there by choice and not by force. Please join me to hear the outcome of the LBI model from some of our students that were out of school, but now they are excited to be in school.
Over to you, Informa.
Thank you so much, Prof. This is, Doctor, thank you so much. This is very inspiring.
All right, you are welcome.
Okay. Are we going to watch another video before we move to the next stage? Or we go on to the next one now?
Let's go on to the next one. We'll watch the other one when the studio is ready.
Okay, we'll watch the other one when the studio is ready. Okay, hello children, we're still seeing all of you. Okay, so with that being said, Dr. Dr. Baba, sorry, I will hand this over to you now. LBI Studio, if you can mute, please, so we don't have an echo.
Thank you, Idroma, for a wonderful coordination of this session since its beginning.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Your Royal Highness, distinguished members of Parliament, other distinguished participants here, I want to stand on existing protocols because we're already pressed for time. My name is Nasir Baba. I am with the Department of Curriculum Studies and Educational Technology, Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto. I am here to replace Dr. Mikailu, who has been with you and who was with you in the first town hall meeting we had. And it's a pleasure for me to be here. My connection with this activity is because of my research interest in Almajiri integration. And I believe that is why Mikhail felt I would have something to gain from this interaction and I may be able to add value. Now, the assignment I have before me now is to present a recap, so to say, of some of the major issues or the major takeaways from the first engagement we had, the first town hall meeting, which was very rich. Because I wasn't at the session. I had to go through about 2 hours of video to pick out what I believe to be the major issues that are worth recasting, so that people can have them at the back of their minds, even as we go into the panel discussion. Now, like that session was rich because it had a diverse representation, because we had a presentation from Dr. David, who was the convener of the session. We had Professor Ihombere, who is the chair of the Basic Education Committee. He delivered a keynote address. Dr. Anna Maziga, the Deputy Chief of Party of AENN, an education program implemented in Borno and Yobe State. And then we had from also Kimberly Gare, who made a presentation on financing of alternate school. So I mean, it's a lot of things, a lot of content. If you also add to that the panel discussions that we had. But what I did was to compress all of this into one slide. So you can imagine how it was that I had to drop a lot of information, but I tried to do justice to each of the issues raised, so that at least people will have them at the back of their minds, and we would also take them into account as we move forward. Now, for simplicity, what I attempted to do was to organize these takeaways into like 6 thematic areas. First, we have public policy and institutions. So what I did here was to organize everything, well, not everything, but the major things that were said around policy and public institutions. And then we had a second subheading thematic area, which was focused on the formal school system, how it was rather not adequate to the needs of the out-of-school children. And then we have the interventions that are ongoing, which Professor Hiovere mentioned. I think I counted about 16 that he mentioned that time, which were ongoing. And then we also see how do we now build up or scale a model. That is the 4th thematic area we're going to look at. And then in her presentation, Kimberly emphasized some of the key minimum essentials that any model of any model of alternate education should have. We'll look at those. And then the last thematic area is how to fund, how to test, and then how to sustain the model. Now, I will quickly go over the first one, which is public policy. Now, in his presentation, Dr. David critically looked at the UBE Act and identified some of the flawed assumptions there. And these assumptions center around the belief that maybe every child who goes to school has the capacity and therefore can run through the normal school curriculum. The beliefs around who has control over children, is it their parents or government? But the bottom line is that this policy appeared to be skewed towards children who are in the mainstream, meaning children who ordinarily will go to school and be in school. Now, if you focus on those children, then you are isolating or excluding a large number of beneficiaries, just like we have seen. Now, Professor Inovere mentioned lack of implementation. In fact, lack of political will and sustained funding. And he said this funding is not just allocation, but release of funding. I believe that is one policy issue which is worth looking into. And then, for me, the biggest one, and I think Professor Inovere mentioned it in passing when he made his presentation, is lack of coordination. One, between the formal and the non-formal education system, and then secondly, between institutions of government that are responsible for managing education. I'm talking here at the federal level, like UBEC, like IMMEC, like NERDC, Nomadic Education Commission, all those institutions that have responsibility for policy coordination. Now, you don't see much of coordination, but which makes it difficult actually to address needs of the non-formal school system. Now, there is also lack of active participation by the state and local governments. Very true, because the states and local governments appear to rely almost exclusively on federal instruments, meaning Once there is a federal policy, instead of them to domesticate it and then adapt it and make it suitable to their situation, they don't. They miss that a lot, and I believe that is one issue. I think Professor Ihovere again identified this as a major problem. Now, these are some of the key policy issues, just so that we can bear them in mind as we go into our discussion. Then there is the formal school system itself, not being inclusive enough, again, which is a fallout of the policy inadequacies that Dr. David identified when he presented. It's like the formal school system is only for the average child who would fit in normally. And then for that child who is in difficult situation or who is deprived, the school system doesn't really do much. But then there is also the problem of the school system, the public school system not being attractive in terms of poor learning environment, also poor learning outcomes. I think Professor Ihovere dwelled on this, how the school is not really making it attractive for children to come and learn. And then there is the high indirect and opportunity cost of schooling for some parents. Now, this was not actually emphasized in any of the presentations, but I felt that this is one key issue. Now, because again, there are parents for whom the attendance of their children in school is a huge sacrifice, because it then means that those children have to forego some economic activities in order to be in school. Now, this is opportunity cost of schooling. Now, it is something we really need to look at, and that is the beauty of alternate schooling, because it provides that flexible arrangement where children can use their time productively for economic activities and then also come to school to learn. And then with the school system, still there is skilled access. In most cases, you find that 3 categories of people are disadvantaged. 1, are you poor? 2, do you live in a rural area? 3, are you a girl? Now, in most cases, if these 3 factors disadvantage people from having access to quality basic education. In fact, one scholar called them the correlates of educational advantage. I mean, the correlates of the educational disadvantage: rural location, poverty, and gender. Then there is this marketplace of interventions. In fact, that is one of the issues that Prof raised, which really touched me again, because we're also engaged in a research right now where we're looking at the integrated curriculum provisions as it is implemented in the Northwest. Now you find this array of interventions targeting out-of-school children. As I was listening to the video, I was writing them down. I think I counted about 16 that Prof mentioned, and I'm sure that's not all. Now, the problem is that if you look at most of these interventions, they are donor-driven. They are donor-driven interventions, which is a good thing because they are like adding value. But then they can also be problematic because unless you control donor-driven interventions, they may distort your own policy. And I think to some extent that is again what we are seeing in the educational sector. And then there is uncoordinated implementation, particularly at the state level, because you find like different actors, with different programs, with different curriculum. But then you find that the states don't make deliberate effort in order to control these programs and then make them part of their educational policy and programs. Then there is unsustainability after phase out. Again, because this program, intervention programs normally have lifespan. So after their lifespan, you would expect that people would continue, but then there is that distance. And so because of that, the impact they leave is short-lived and temporary. They have huge impact on enrollment, on learning quality, on employment opportunities, but after the program winds up, then it becomes problematic to sustain it. Now, the 4th thematic area, now because if you look at 1, 2, 3, like they are like problem areas. That is, what are the major challenges that are afflicting the existing arrangement? Now, the next 3 are the opportunities we have. What opportunities can we now get or can we derive from these challenges to build a model which we can now use or leverage upon in order to get these children some kind of opportunities for learning? And so the 4th one is build or scale up a model. I think Kimberly made a very important point, that if you want to get this problem solved, then have a model. So that a model that has good ideas that can be supported and funded and then implemented to help these children to get some kind of sound education. But then we are lucky because all those interventions that are existing, which Prof mentioned, there are interventions, many of which have made an impact. So what we need to do is identify them rather than going back and starting from the scratch, identify them and see what do they bring to the table. Now, again, it's important because we are looking forward to having diversified provisions, meaning that because it's an alternate education, it means one package cannot solve everybody's problem. So at the end of the day, you will have to have differentiated provisions that are targeted to the specific needs of each beneficiary group. So that is where you can now pick from those that are available. And then Dr. Anna, in her presentation, I think emphasized so much on the accelerated model. Again, accelerated model is probably the model best suited to out-of-school children, because I think, like one of the speakers mentioned, I think it was Dr. Anna, that the formal school system cannot actually take care of the unique circumstances of the out-of-school children. So the accelerated education model is worth looking into as we build our model. And then we have to build local capacity and then participation, encourage participation of local institutions at the state and local government, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who are implementing this program. So we want to see them take control of these programs. Then the fifth one is focus. I think the fifth and the sixth one is focused mainly on the presentation that Kimberly made, because I believe that was more or less a practical recommendation, a practical advice as to what we're supposed to do. Now, she identified 4 minimum essentials that she felt any model that is targeting out-of-school children should incorporate. Otherwise, we may not record much success. And those 4 are healthcare, economic empowerment, social integration, and then community partnership. Thank God, when we had the presentation from LBI, you found that some of those key elements are included. In their own case, they have 8 elements, so it means there are more than we have here. But I think from the presentation she made is these are key. Again, when we come to discuss, we look at, is there anything that is missing that among the key elements that she has identified? And then the last one is, okay, now that you have a model, you have to test that model. But for you to test that model, you need funding. Now, what Kimberly mentioned in her presentation, which stood out, was that ordinarily we would think that funding is a major constraint. Now, Kimberly felt that funding is the easiest part. What you need to do is build a model that can sell, and then you find philanthropies and financiers who are willing to provide the funding for you to test the model. I think she gave different models like impact-based, outcome-based, and impact bonds model, which she felt will be used to sustain this. I know that as we build these models, we need to, I believe, hold on to people like Kimberly so that we can get that advice as to how to get this funding, because it's very important. But the thing I think one thing I took away from what she mentioned was that most of these philanthropies will fund the testing of the model. Now, it means, therefore, that once the model is tested, then it becomes the responsibility of government to now fund and sustain and scale up that model. I think very similar to the problem we have identified with regard to the interventions that are ongoing now. Any intervention that is development-oriented, that is driven by donors, is an intervention done so that people or the indigenous government can now see what value is there in this intervention so that they can now scale it up. I think that is the opportunity we have. Now, in a nutshell, I'm sure I must have missed a lot of things, but I believe, to my thinking, these are some, if we hold on to this, these are some of the critical building blocks that we need to dwell upon. So I think when we come to the panel discussion, the questions I'm going to address are going to be looking at this, and so that we examine what is missing and what we need to add in that. Then the last thing I would say here is just to remind us of what are we supposed to be focusing on here. Because the first town hall meeting, like the moderator at that time, Mikhail mentioned, was aimed at looking at or conceptualizing the alternate education system. And I believe we have said enough, or we have gotten some of the major building blocks of that concept. Now we move a little from talking to doing, meaning that, okay, now that we know what this means, what are the critical models? What are those models that we think have worked in the past? Again, because we have people that are experienced, have diverse experience here. What are best practices that we can build into those models? And then what are the basic components of the alternate education model? Kimberly gave us minimum of 4. LBI gave us 8. Now let us look at this 4 against this 8, and in fact against any number that we know, and see how can we leverage on this in order to get where we want to go to. And I believe this is what we are going to focus on in the panel discussion. I think I will pause here. I don't know if we are going to take anything, or we just move on to the panel discussion. Ifoma, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Baba. I think we move on to the panel discussion now, so we don't lose the momentum.
Okay, great. If today's panelists, I believe I'm trying to go through the list. Great. We have, let me quickly introduce them. We have Dr. Umar Buba Bender. I don't know whether doctor is here. Do we have Dr. Bender here?
Yes, he was online.
Oh, okay. Well, Dr. Bender is one of our panelists. When I come to ask questions, I'll give a brief highlight about Dr. Bender. We also have Honorable Dr. Shehu Balarabe Kakale, who have seen. I know he is here. He's among the panelists. Then we have Professor Muhammad Tukur Muazu, Professor of Curriculum Studies. I don't know whether he's here, but he's on the panel. And then we have Professor Chidi Ansem Odinkalu. I don't know whether he's here too, but we have him on the panel. I think Uju is also on the panel. Uju is sitting for Mrs. Adegoke.
Can we speaker in Magana? Ogana Lagos. Yeah, up to one.
Someone is on.
Which will leave now. Once you are ready, we go.
Hello. Please mute your mic. We can hear your conversation.
Yes. Great. So I think we can delve into the panel. What I will do is I will give a time limit of 5 minutes. I will raise questions around some of these things that we have listed and we have listened to, just so that at the end of the day we have to fall on to.
Keep children back in school. One factor must be held sacrosanct.
Are we having the presentation now, Ifuma?
LBI Studio, are you doing the presentation now? Because we see that has come on now.
Hello.
Hello, we hear you, sir. If you can kindly
can I make my contribution now, because I have some very important.
Yes, we will make your contribution in just a minute. Let's just sort out some technical issue we're having here. LBI Studio, please, if you can stop making your presentation, we're going into the panel discussion now. Thank you very much, LBI Studio. Dr. Baba, carry on, please.
Yes. Is that Honorable Kakale that was asking to speak?
Yes, it was Honorable Kakale.
Okay, great. Honorable, I was actually coming to you because I know that you have been sitting here patiently and we've been with us since morning. So my first question will go to you, but before I do that, let me introduce you once again. Honorable Shehu Balarabi Kakale is a member representing Bodinga, Dengeshuni, Toyota Federal Constituency, and a former Commissioner of Health in Sokoto State from 2015 to 2019. Now, I also know Honorable Kakale virtually because I don't think we have met, but I know he has made efforts in the National Assembly. That time I sponsored a bill, Al-Majri, and because that is an area that I'm interested in, I followed him. And I think early this year or late last year, he organized, I think, a workshop in collaboration with one of the government agencies in Sokoto State. And I was in fact supposed to be part of that workshop, but another assignment took me. But just to emphasize how Honorable has been involved in activities such as this. Now, Honorable, in addition to whatever you want to say, I want you to, because of your interest in Al-Majri issue, I want you to look at the models that are being proposed. What do you think is missing? What do you think needs to go into any program that is targeting Al-Majri, bearing into mind that this Al-Majri are the largest group of out-of-school children in Nigeria? So, Honorable, the floor is yours, sir. We have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much, Prof. I really appreciate being the chief coordinator of the panel, and also want to thank Life Builders Initiative. I also want to thank our teacher and recognize our chair panelists here. First of all, sir, I want to start my comment with disagreement with the choice of the word out of school. For us, or for many of us, we think those children are in a school, but the system has refused to recognize that school. And thankfully, there is a word that has come up now, alternate school. I think they should be better called alternate school systems. What I'm trying to say is that our distinguished panelist and convener of this meeting now, Dr. Olatunji David, even said that they have a program of schools without walls. We must have to understand the concept of education in the 21st century, that now, the future of education is not necessarily the full world classroom. Just like the future of currency or banking, it's not going to be the full the banking building. I mean, currency is not going to be the banks. The same thing. The COVID era has really taught us a very important lesson about e-learning and e-education systems. So the earlier we really change out from out of school to alternate school systems is better for us. It's about emphasis on skills, and those skills now can be any form of skills: skills of craft, skills of technology, negotiation skills, communication skills, oratory skills, and then add, numeracy and literacy to that. Somebody who has been keeping a shop, for example, in southeastern part of Nigeria, or an apprentice, or somebody in Montessori school, or a Bible school, or Al-Majri school, or any religious school, should not be called an out-of-school child. The alternate school system is a revolution now of alternate systems in the 21st century. There are alternate systems or alternate factor in every system of human endeavor. Even in the justice system now, there are courts of arbitration, alternate dispute resolution. Even in transport now, there are alternate systems of transport now, electric vehicles coming in. And I've said even currency now, there are these cryptocurrencies coming up. And so education too, we should begin to look at it as if as a whole sector of non-conventional, non-formal systems that can also be very, very important in human capital development. Al-Majri numbers and all of those schools, children who are in motor parks, for example, in markets and wherever. The alternate system is trying to bring a new model of liberalizing education, which the Life Builders Initiative already captured. Is about democratizing education, making education accessible, available, how you want it, in your standard or peculiar environment that you need that education. So now what is needed is to add skills and to add numeracy and literacy and other languages. So for example, a Majiri school child with their learning of Arabic and Islamic studies and their arts and craft, from knitting caps to tailoring to whatever, to farming, agriculture, livestock production, add numeracy, literacy, of basic education, and then, give them their recognized certification that they can read, they can write, they are literate, and they go on with their work. A child who is an apprentice of how to handle, commercial activities in the area, how to handle his customers, how to earn a living, he has a skill. Now add numeracy and literacy to that and give them that certificate. So at the National Assembly, or the Committee on Education and the House generally, what we are trying to do is to look at all the laws of functions of all those agencies that deal with literacy and education. Particularly, for example, UBEC is one of them. The Council for Mass Literacy, the Mass Literacy Council is another one. National Business and Technical Education Board, NAPTEP, is another one. Then the National Education Research and Development Council. We want, of course, and also the MBIS, the National Board for Arabic and Islamic, fine-tune the curriculum, recognize these alternate skills, add massive dose of skills, numeracy and literacy, and then certificate them, recognize them. And they will be on their own. They don't need government.
You are breaking, Honorable. We are not hearing you again. Hello, Honorable. Can you still hear us? We can't hear you. Or is it only me? Can anybody
because
hear?
Honestly, even all the Nigerian children put back into that enrolled 300 students.
Hello, Honorable, we can't hear you.
So my time is up.
No, we can't hear you.
You can't hear me. My time is up.
No, your network is breaking.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you now. So if you may want to repeat the last 2 sentences you said.
I said, I said, there is need to look into the laws and functions of National Business and Technical Education Board, the Nomadic School Education Council, the Mass Literacy Council, and the National Education Research Council, as well as Universal Basic Education Commission. All of these need to fine-tune their concept and functions concerning education, to liberalize and democratize it, and to realize that the future of education is not only going to be the 4-wall classroom, but anybody, anywhere that has skills, just add numeracy and literacy to that skill, and then certificate that person as a literate person that can contribute to economic activities of the nation. Let's see the human capacity angle to these alternate school systems. Not everybody because there are opportunity costs being going to school. That was in the last presentation of Live Builders. There's a flawed assumption that everybody wants to send his child to school on a scale of priority. Those are people who would prefer to be in the markets, or who prefer to be in other schools, whether religious schools or cultural schools. So reach to them, give them numeracy, add literacy, and then add massive dose of skills, art and skills, and then certificate them. Of course, the regular conventional schools are there. They should be improved. They should be more funded, and a lot of other things. So what I'm trying to, I think what I'm trying to conclude here is, we should begin to move away from that nomenclature of calling them out of school. They're in the school. In the part of the country I come from, they are recognized to be in a school. They are not out of school. It's coined by some groups, and it has gained a lot of traction. I think we should change it to alternate school children. They're in an alternate school. And that alternate school is a revolution now, because there are alternate systems in every sector. We should realize that in the current 21st century global setting, There are always alternate systems to conventional systems or formal systems, and they are working. It's about inclusive education, inclusive growth and development. I think I will stop here, and really want to thank Dr. Olatunji David and other members of the Alternate School Program Presidential Committee, and also the chief panelist, Professor Baba Jibrin, and all other, and my chairman, House Committee on Education, Professor Jules Ehumvari. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Thank you. Thank you for those very strong and passionate ideas. I think one thing that you have emphasized, which needs to really be looked into, is classifying Almajiris as out of school. Yeah, I think it's something that we need to look at, because now that this concept has alternate education has come in, is something that we need to look at. Another one that stood out for me is how the key agencies, key education agencies, the line MDAs in education, NERDC, UBEC, IMMEC, Nomadic Education Commission, and all these examining bodies need to liberalize their concept of education so that they can take into account this notion of alternate education. Because like you observe, it is cutting across all sectors, not only in education. I think that was very strong, and we thank you, sir, for that presentation. Now, I don't know whether we have Dr. Bender here. Dr. David, do we have Dr. Bender? Because I want to go to him next.
I do not believe he's online right now.
He's not. Okay, what of Professor Muazu Tukur? Is he with us?
Professor Muazu will come in later. He just called me now.
Oh, okay. Okay, then it means we can take Uju, who is standing in for Mrs. Adegoke. Uju, please, can you, because I know you have already made a presentation on one note, but we understand that there are some perspectives that you want to share, particularly around what do we need to take into account as the good model that is going to target this out of school and Almajiris. What do you think will work best? What do you think we need to take into account as we develop a model for them? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Thank you, Honorable, for your presentation. I mean, that was a very strong concept. Just like the moderator said, it is something to actually critically take a look at. I think for me, in developing the alternate model for us, I think it's important that this model look at the diverse categories, if I may use that word, of people that we have who are currently out of school, the children that are out of school, so that we ensure that specific needs are articulated and inform the policy that we're putting together for the alternate education. Now, what comes to my mind is that in developing this policy, it's important. The Honorable has said that, you know, all this alternate system, we need to put a structure, we need to certificate people, we need to kind of strengthen the existing alternate system in a way that children are learning life skills, they're learning employability skills that they could use to improve their livelihood, as well as, you know, make them a better, more positioned to support the economy. So what I would want to add, I think that in developing that, we need to develop a system that creates a pathway. Let me put it that way: creates multiple pathways in which, though children are in alternate system, is there a way that they could move from the alternate system and transit to the formal school? So for instance, somebody who's gone through the Almajiri system, for instance, if we have strengthened the Almajiri system to a point that a certificate from Almajiri system, somebody could wake up tomorrow and say, okay, from Almajiri system, I have this certificate, I could easily integrate back, maybe from university or a technical college or from whatever level. But there has to be some level of multiple pathways that allow that movement to happen. So children from diverse backgrounds could be part of the alternate system, as well as exit possibilities. They could decide to move into the formal system. There are structures that allow that sort of movement, to happen between the informal and formal system. So I think I'm a big advocate that the alternate system, what we have right now, you see that it's not integrated into the education system. It's not being recognized, just like what the Honorable said. It's not recognized. So there has to be a structure to recognize them, a structure of some sort of quality assurance that we ensure that what is going on out there is being monitored. There's some sort of standardization. Yes, flexible, but yet still standardized in a way that children from Almajiri's, Almajiri or any other alternate system could come out and they can contribute meaningfully to the economy, as well as improve their livelihood. I think that's the way I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Uju. I think I will really hold on to that last point you made, and because it's something I have not really had so much of, and that is pathways, and then how to build bridges between the two systems. Because right now that is the problem. Because I was discussing with Dr. David before we came in that integration programs for Almajiri is ongoing, but part of the problem with that is once they finish that, say, basic literacy, numeracy course, then what happens next? In most cases, there isn't a laid down framework for these children to transit from one system to another. IMEC, that is the National Mass Education Commission, has developed a standard of equivalence. That is to say, okay, when you finish 9 months of basic literacy, what is the equivalent? But then unfortunately, what we lack is the policy framework that will make these things work. And this is where states come in. States are supposed to take it off from there and develop a framework where they can now allow these learners to transit from one system to another. So I think that is something we will really need to take into account. And thank you very much for that submission. Do we have any panelist who is here who has not spoken? I know there is Dr. Odin Kalu. Is he here?
Not presently.
Oh, okay, he's not. Okay. I think while we do that, there have been comments on the comment box. Hello, sir.
Yes, the participants from the Almajiri centers are holding on, waiting for you to engage. So please, if you wish to ask them any question.
Okay.
Almajiri centers.
Good. I think we'll round off this section now, because I think that is the last thing we will do. Have that engagement with them, right?
Yes, they want to speak to us, and they want you to ask them questions. So you can throw some of the questions at them, and then they will respond to their panelists.
Great.
So
can they hear me as I speak?
They can hear you. They can see you. So just speak outside, though. You understand that bit.
Yes, I want to switch. I just wanted to make sure that they can hear me.
And then the children from the school here are also listening. They want to.
Okay, great. Assalamu alaikum jama'a, ina sa muna tare da makarantun Alkur'ani da ke Zamfara da Nasarawa bisa ga bayanin da Dr. David ya bamu. Wannan taro ne kan wani tsari da gwamnati ta hito da shi na abin da ake kira alternate education, kamar wani tsari na ilimi wanda yake ya dan bambanta da ilimin da aka saba ko tsari da aka saba na ilimi, amma kuma shi ma yana da bayani. Kamar yanzu ilimin da kuke ba yaran ku na makarantun allo, kaga shi ma ilimi ne. To maimakon a ce ai ba mu san da shi ba, sai mu ce to ilimi ne shi ma wanda yake zai iya ba yara dama su nemi sanin wani abu kuma su nemi sana'o'i da za su yi. So dama alternate education din wani tsari ne da shi shugaban kasa Muhammadu Buhari ya hito da shi, sun kaddamar da shi a watan na wannan shekara, sannan aka zo kuma aka kaddamar da hukumomi da za su gudanar da shirin a watan hudu. Yanzu wannan taro ne na tattaunawa, muna son mu ji ra'ayoyin mutane game da wannan tsarin. To a cikin hikima shi Dr. David, wanda shine mai masaukin baki, sai ya ga da cewa ya kamata a ce mun haɗa da ku, mun saurare ku mu ji menene kuke ganin fa'idar wannan shiri gare ku, sannan kuma menene shakuwar ku, menene kuke ganin duk wanda zai zauna a ce yayi wannan tsarin, me kuke ganin ya kamata ya la'akari da shi saboda a yi abin da zai daidai da lamarin ku na makarantun allo. So in dai ana ji na, ina son a ɗan lokaci kan wayannan abubuwan, in ji kin wannan tsarin zai zama amsashe gare ku, zai zama abu wani wanda za ku karɓa, sannan kuma in ma za ku karɓe shi, kuna ganin kamar kila akwai abubuwan da ya kamata a ce mun yi la'akari da shi lokacin da ake gina wannan tsarin, ko kuma a'a akwai abubuwan da shawarwarin da kuke ba son ku bayar bisa ga naku tsarin, kuna son ku nuna muna abubuwan da ya kamata a ce mun yi la'akari da su. To zan ba da dama yanzu in akwai mai magana cikin ku sai ya magana. Muna nan tare duka za a ji sai a bada ansa. Assalamu alaikum.
Da aka fito da shi alhamdulillahi abin ya yi mana 100%, kamar yadda aka faɗa, yadda gwamnati ta zo da wannan tsari, inda yadda ya fito daga gwamnati zai iso gun almajirai ko kuma masu kula da almajiran, alhamdulillah sai mu ce za a samu abin da ake so ciki. Mafi akasari tsokaci da ya ce idan muna da shi za mu ɗanyi, wanda muke ganin za mu yi kan wannan tafiya, shi ne so da yawa ana zuwa a same mu da irin wannan duba hali da muke ciki, ko kuma a tallafa mana mu a ga tsari na karatun alkur'ani din nan, ko kuma na littafi da islamiyya, misali almajiri ya ci gaba, sai mun ba da dama ko kuma mun kawo kukanmu ko mun nuna irin damuwanmu, mun karɓi wannan gayyata, muna idarwa sai mu ga abin bai iso mu ba. Shine ban mu sani ba ko akwai hanya da za a bi, wanda duk lokacin da in an taimaka ma almajiri ko kuma malami da ke karantar da almajiri da abin da zai amfanar da shi akan karatun shi, ko da naira 5 ne ya zamanto ya iso almajirin ya ci gajiyan abin. Ba don komai ba, muna yin hakan ba ɗaya ba ba biyu ba, sai mu rasa aina ne abin ke makarewa. Ga bayani na game da abin da gwamnati ya turo, ga kuma irin tsokaci na, ina fatan ana tare da ni. Saboda haka sakonmu kenan ga gwamnati da kuka zamanto sila tsakaninmu da gwamnati, ga sakonmu ga kukanmu, Allah ya sa sanadiyan kun shiga tsakanin wannan abu ya zama karɓuwan ijaba da kuma biyan bukata na wannan al'amari. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sakona kenan.
Okay, wa alaikum assalam malam. Muna godiya malam da wannan sakon da ka bada. Ladies and gentlemen, he raised a very, very important issue. Malam, ina kokari ne yanzu in yi masu bayani da turanci kan abun da ka yi magana, because abu ne wanda ni na san da shi kuma ya kamata a ce an yi la'akari da shi din. What Malam is saying is that they are happy that the government has looked at their side and they have brought up this program to benefit them. But one problem they face is that in many cases, programs of this sort will be conceived, but then at the end of the day, you find that it doesn't reach them, meaning they are supposed to be the beneficiaries because these programs are done in their names, but at the end of the day, they don't see it. Now, I don't know whether Prof. Ihovere is here so that he can chip in on this, and maybe any other person. But let me just quickly also add, that has been my experience working with Malamai across, I think, virtually all the states in the Northwest, because I've done work among them extensively. That is why generally they have this mistrusts of government institutions and, in fact, government personalities, because they will always tell you that, oh, a social program has been done in our name, but at the end of the day, we never benefited from it. So I don't know who will come in here and chip in so that I can pass the message on to Malam. Thank you. Prof, are you still with us, sir?
Very much, yeah.
Okay, sir. Do you want to comment on this, sir?
Okay. Let me start by thanking Life Builders again for bringing us in direct contact with the Almajiris, or the people in the Almajiri school. You see, this is what is often missing. The big politicians and big men will sit down in Abuja and we talk so much about what we want to do for the people. We forget real people concerned are out there. They have their own lived experiences. They have their own expectations. And it is important to listen to them, not just in an opportunistic manner, but in terms of properly understanding what is going on in their lives and in their communities. So I want to thank them, and I want to thank those who spoke on that video for their frankness. Now, two things. I look at that environment in which, into the classroom. I'm happy to see the goats or the rams behind them. It shows the reality of the community and the environment in which we live. Not that when they leave school, they ask them what is a ram. They say you pluck it from tree or you get it from supermarket. They don't know what it looks like. But that environment itself is certainly not conducive enough. The Almajiris in that school have not committed an offense against anybody. They are citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria who are entitled to enjoy the same kind of model schools that we're building around the country, with library, computer room, playground, neat classroom desks, ceiling fans, if not solar lighting, and so on and so forth. So my first point in response to that video is that at the National Assembly level, we need to also generate a conversation. And I promise that I will personally handle this matter with UBEC in terms of doing things better, to say, look, pay attention to these schools, pay attention to the nomadic schools, and ensure that at a certain level, there is some quality. Number two, if I'm not mistaken, the age difference in people in that class, we need to pay attention to it. If we're doing an adult school, which will have an adult school, people are learning just basic writing and numeracy so they can do their business. But when we have children, there are specific requirements they need. There are certain motor skills children have, which they must let go. And I think that is important. It's just something we should pay attention to as we go along. Funding these schools, very critical. For instance, you have Life Builders intervening critically over the years. But government will say, you are not private sector, you are not NGO or whatever. In fact, the point I'm trying to make here is that government must get off its high horse and begin to support NGOs and individuals. I mean, there are individuals in this country who can renovate all the Almajiri and nomadic schools that have not been renovated, instead of buying another private jet. But there has to be a strategy for engaging them. If we can sit down and raise hundreds of millions of dollars for Obasanjo Presidential Library. Why can't we sit down and raise that kind of money and follow the utilization, the deployment and utilization to ensure there's value for money and the environment is good? And the content of what they are learning, for me, is very, very critical. Like I said in my initial intervention, we do not want them to come into school, get out of it, and nothing else will follow. In fact, there has to be a system of following the graduates of the Almajiri school. That's only when we can sing our praises and say we have succeeded in doing something. You don't just graduate them out there with nothing to follow up. So there has to be a system. And this, I'm sure, between Kakali, myself, and others, and even the head of Life Builders there, would ensure that these conversations are integrated in this initial phase of the alternate school program to say, yes, identify them, get them into school, keep them in school, keep the environment conducive, ensure that they are not treated as people we are doing a favor to, but rather people that deserve what they are supposed to get. Ensure they graduate from school and follow up the graduation so that we can have a comprehensive or holistic story to tell at the end of the day. At the moment, there is a lot of talk. And talk, they say, is cheap, but action is what is required. I'm hoping that with this kind of initiative from Life Builders, we'll bring in many more participants. And then I think until the government begins, and this is my final word so that others can say, until the government itself begins to problematize the out-of-school children issue, begins to link it to socioeconomic underdevelopment, to security issues, to dislocation within the family, to basic safety issues. We have an army there of almost 13, 15 million. You know, they're bigger than all the bandits and others combined. And if they are activated, they will make those Boko Haram and the bandits look like amateurs. And we don't want that to happen. We pray it doesn't happen. But government must not just include them in a sentence, in a speech, but we must never forget, all of them live in states. All of them live in local governments. States and local governments get federal allocation every month. And there must be a strategy to get a percentage of this money. Even if we say 5% of what they get must go to out-of-school children, and then NGOs and others can follow up, it is not a crime. I'm sure they can get, maybe we should, Kakali and I can think of even possibility of a motion then followed by a bill to make a certain percentage of what they get to go to out-of-school children. This way, we have something good that we can do. I want to thank you for allowing me to intervene again.
Thank you very much, Prof. That was really very useful. Thank you. David, do we have the other school waiting so that we don't keep them waiting? I know you talk of 2 schools.
Yes, I have with me, also from our school, we have a guy who was an Almanjeri guy before. He is still one. You see here, because of the stigma we have put, everybody is shy. I told them I was an Almanjeri before. And then, yes. And I met a lot of my friends who are doing very well now, who were part of the Almanjeri system in the beginning. So if he will talk, I want him to talk. He's still one of us. But he doesn't want to be called Almanjeri again. But he is one. It's fine now.
You want to talk in Hausa or English?
You will speak English. I mean, we have to speak Hausa first.
So, how has that become what you are?
Salamu alaikum, suna Suleiman a baya na yi karatu a Kano. Sannan da ne karatu a Kano ana koyar da mu sosai. Bayan ana koyar da mu sosai ana koya mana tarbiyya masu kyau. Ana koya mana da za mu dinga girmama manyan mu da yaran da ƙananan mu. Za a dinga koya mana yadda ake karatu. Sannan kuma za a dinga koya mana yadda za mu dinga yi wa iyayen mu tarbiyya. Sannan za a dinga koya mana karatu. Sannan sai bayan muna karatu bayan muna yawa malaman mu aiki daga baya sai bayan malamin bai da lafiya sai Allah ya zo mishi da rasuwa kafin sai muka dawo sai muka koma kan ci ba wanda dai kun ya dawo da mu sai na shiga nan makarantar su da lafiya
Can we continue the line there? Hello, David.
Hello, sir.
Hey, can we control the noise there? I couldn't hear him well. I was just able to pick one or two things.
Yes, we are not able to hear him. There's a lot of noise in the background.
Hey, yeah, the noise, there's a lot of noise. Can we control that noise, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I was able to get something from him. I would want to ask him some few questions so that I can give you a more, I think, a better context.
Please go ahead.
Kamar a ina kai karatun allo, a gida ne ko a waje?
A waje ne.
Okay. Da kai dan ina ne ainihi?
Ni na yi karatu ne a garin Malam.
Oh, garin Malam. Okay. Amma kai dan ina ne?
Dan Kano ne.
Okay. Dan ina wani gari? Ina garin ku?
Bebeji.
Oh, Bebeji. So daga Bebeji aka kawo ka garin Malam karatu? Yawa, to kana shekara nawa aka zo da kai karatu nan garin Malam? Kana da shekara nawa?
Ina shekara 10.
Okay, kana shekara 10. Lokacin da kake karatu ta yi shekara nawa wurin Malam? Shekara nawa kai karatu, kana da karatu ta wurin Malam?
Ina da karatu sosai.
Shekaru nawa kake wurin Malam?
Mun yi shekaru 2 ne a wajen.
Okay, da kai shekara 2 sai ka bar wurin?
Sai malamin ya mutu. Sai malamin ya rasu.
Oh, okay. Rasuwa ya yi? To da ya rasu sai ne faru?
Da ya rasu shi ne sai babanmu ya kwaso mu ya dawo da mu nan.
Okay, dawo da ku nan ko? Okay, yanzu ka sauka ne ka sauka ko ka yanzu baka sauka ba?
A ban sauka ba, amma yanzu ina kan dai Islamiyya ban sauka ba.
Okay, to yayi. Lokacin da kake karatu kana koyon wata sana'a ne, akwai sana'a da kake koya?
Ba na yi sana'a.
Okay, kana bara lokacin da kake karatu?
Amma yanzu ina koyon sana'a.
Okay, amma lokacin da kake karatu kana bara?
Ina bara.
Okay, a gida kake bara koko a hanya?
A gida.
Okay, kana da uwar ɗaki ne a nan garin Malam? Okay, to yanzu kana nan tare da David kenan ko na LBI? Ka yi karatun boko ne yanzu ƙashin David?
Ina kan yi ne.
Okay, kana kan yi, amma lokacin da kana can waccan makarantar ta allo kana karatun boko a wurin?
Ba na yi.
Okay, ka baro gida fa ka yi karatun boko? Okay, to fine. Okay, I think this is interesting. If I could just give, I was just.
You can speak English now. You can speak English. Okay, you can speak English now. And then, can you speak English? So you can speak English now. Just ask him the question in English, please.
Okay,
talk about what you have enjoyed in life.
Okay, let me ask him one question in English. So what are you learning now? What are the things that you are learning that you have been taught in addition to your Islamic education here in the LBI? What are those? What are you learning?
Online standard.
Okay.
Online standard.
Okay. I want to get.
And shoemaking.
Oh, okay.
Shoemaking.
Dye and shoemaking.
Oh, great. Okay, that's fine. So thank you very much. Thank you. I was asking just so that I can give you context, because this information is good so that you can get to understand the system. Now, I asked him where is he from. He said he's from BBG. That is his hometown. But I then asked him where did he learn Quran at home or out of home. Now he said no, he was taken out of BBG at the age of 10 and then taken to Garumala. Garumala is still in Kano to learn the Quran. By that time he was age 10. Now I asked him how many years had he stayed with the Malam. He said he stayed for only 2 years, and the reason for his leaving is that the Malam now died. So when the Malam died, the father now took him and then brought him to Abuja. I was asking him whether he learned any basic formal education while he was in Quranic school. He said no. I was asking him, was he learning any skill while he was in Quranic school? And again, he said no. Maybe because at that time he was but the practice normally is that when the children are also learning the Quran, they engage in menial job skill learning. Some of them who are lucky do embroidery, like the one I have now, or they do cap making. So before, by the time they would have acquired those skills. I think those are the points that Honorable Kakale was making. But unfortunately, he has not had that opportunity. No skill, then no formal education. It was when he came to the LBI, that was when he started learning those skill components in addition to basic education. I don't know whether anybody wants to comment on this briefly, because we are really running out of time. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really running out of time. If you allow me, just some of the comments.
Sorry, Dr. Baba, we can't hear you because of the background noise from LBI Studio. Can you kindly mute LBI Studio so we can hear Dr. Baba? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Ifoma. Thank you. Now, I was asking for any comment, if there is any comment to the perspective that this Almajiri child has given, at least as I have narrated it. I don't know whether anybody will want to chip in here briefly, because we're really out of time. Good. Then I believe I can go to comments now. There have been comments. Maybe that's the last thing before I now hand over to Ifoma. There are some comments on the chat box. Kimberly has been sort of listening in, and she's been giving her endorsement to the LBI model, and she said it's really working. And I think someone suggested that we can take school to the children. I think Stephen Olarewaju is of the belief that we can take the school to the children, and Kimberly is saying yes. She agrees with that submission. We have Uchenna Mouba, who said this promises to be great. More wins, more achievement. That's very good. Then we have Indubisi Adikuru from Federal University of Technology, Owerri, who said it's a good initiative. We have, again, Ibrahim Amaria. He said this is a real deal. We have passed gone the era of theoretical garbage with no practical illustration. Every words we say, with no practical illustration to back every words we say. So I believe he is seeing the potential for some action here, and he's commending that. It's a very commendable LBI. Kimberly here said Nigeria has the opportunity to create a forward-looking, groundbreaking new model for alternate education. I believe Kimberly is someone who will have to come to back and back again. I am really interested in her, in the potential she has of attracting funding for some of the models that we may want to test. We have Folake Olatunji David. He said, well said, Prof. This is phenomenal. We pray to see the desired innovation in this critical social delivery. And she still continues. She said, kudos LBI for making this tremendous platform a reality for forward-looking change in our educational space. I think these are some of the comments that we got here. Generally, it has been a very engaging session. We have gone way beyond our time. We are supposed to have closed at 1. It's almost 1:30 now. And I think it's only fair at this point we provide some relief to people. And at this point, I would want to hand the mic back to Ifoma so that she can take us through the remaining items in the agenda. Ifoma, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Baba. Thank you very much for the wonderful session. Maybe before I hand over to Dr. David, I would just want to read something that the Honorable put in our own chat here. He says that he thinks that the emphasis should be on life skills, employability, with children moving to become responsible participants of the economy and the nation. And we should not continue to emphasize only on people getting into college or university, as not every citizen must have a degree. So just re-emphasizing that we have to have multiple pathways for people to be able to engage in the economy and become productive citizens. With that said, I will hand over to Dr. David.
Sorry, before you do, because you also raised a point regarding the gender dimension of all this.
Oh, yes.
You want to talk about that?
Yes, yes. Yes, of course. How can I forget one of the most important things here? Yes, there was also a point here that I raised on we have to look at the gender dimensions and gender angle of alternate program and education, because focusing on the traditional systems that we have now tend to also leave out a whole group of people. If we focus on the Almajiri system, then we leave out all the girl child and the young women as well. So we need to find a way to be able to make sure that we're looking at this in a holistic manner and not leaving any of the population behind. And also there was an issue around how do we get the private sector involved. Prof talked about financing and getting buildings of the schools in shape, and doesn't necessarily need government funding. So how do we get the private sector involved? Would we be involving them with technology? What is the strategy that we're going to be using to do this? These are areas that we need to talk about. And I believe that as LBI is looking at this, we'll also be looking at this holistically, and maybe for the next conversations that we have, we need to dig deep into how we're going to be getting them involved, and also probably have somebody from the private sector in the next conversations that we have as well. Thank you very much, Dr. Baba, for highlighting that. Thank you very much to all the panelists. I will hand over to Dr. Sanwo now and the LBI crew. Thank you. Dr. David, over to you. Dr. David, over to you for your closing. You're muted, Dr. David.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you, Dr. David.
Good. It's been an awesome conversation. And even though at the beginning of it all, we felt that this conversation should just be 2 series. But I'm beginning to think that we might have to go to the 3rd series, because a lot of issues are being raised now. And then the 3rd one might be a live, I don't know how it's going to be, but I'll be discussing with Professor Yubari, I'll be talking with Honorable Kokale, and every person who has been part of this. It's been an awesome conversation. I'm so excited. We couldn't hear from Zamfara because of network issues, but I'm sure we will get to hear from everywhere and all the space. We need to know that these children are very critical to us. We need to do something to make sure that we give them a future they can be proud of. They have seen our faces, and I'm sure they are looking forward to us making good all the promises we have made today. Prof, thank you so very much. The honor of Abaji, thank you so very much. Dr. Bindir was here. I don't know how we couldn't get him back on, but I can speak for him. I know what he's saying. I know he's saying, and he's so concerned about the welfare of the young generation. So these children behind me are looking at us. They've been part of it all. They've had the summer outside. There's an outside broadcasting studio where about 300 children are seated to be watching us. So the thing is that we need to make good our promise. And that is what I'm going to be leaving with us. Concerning the private sector, O&O is doing awesome. And a lot of other, and MTN, we beat all of them on the field. But what we are looking for is who is going to bring all this conversation together and give to us the kind of synergy that will drive the education sector forward. Thank you so much for being part of it. Dr. Buba, thank you. Thanks to everybody. Too many to mention that Uchenna Obunakan. Kimberly has been so much around here. I'm sure we'll continue this conversation together. Thank you so very much. We truly, truly appreciate you for being there. From here, I say thank you. Over to you, Ifoma.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanwo. Thank you very much to all the panelists. Thank you, distinguished guests from every part of the world. Kim Dyer, we saw all your comments. Dr. Baba, you've been an awesome co-host. Thank you very much to everyone. As Dr. Sanwo said, maybe we'll have a third stream of this or a different kind of conversation to move this forward next time. But we will share the video as with the last time once it's ready. It will be shared on the site. And please do invite all your friends, invite other colleagues, invite people from your office. We all need to be engaged in this conversation. Thank you very much to the Royal Highness that was here as well. I know he had to leave. We thank you all. Uju, thanks a lot. It was nice to see you again. Prof, thank you so much. I can't begin to mention all the names and I shouldn't even have started. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you and have a lovely day. Thank you, Joe.
So thank you, everybody.
Thank you to the teams in Zamfara and Nassau as well. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye. All
right, thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Buba. It's been awesome. Some of my people here have to go out for prayer. So we have to rush out now. Thank you so very much, everybody. We appreciate it.